Welcome back to Pour Into My Cup. In today's episode, I sat down with Brandon Smithwrick. He gave his advice from a hiring manager perspective for new and seasoned job seekers, benefits to LinkedIn content creation, and his non-linear career path through luxury fashion, content creation, and tech. Get ready to have your cup poured into. Hi, Brandon. Welcome to the podcast today.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. So I like to start off every conversation by asking, how are you doing today? How's your mental health?
Mental health is good. Probably need more sleep, but I feel really good in this season where I am right now. So feeling blessed.
Yay. Yeah, I'm sure that you're probably feeling like really tired after your amazing news of being not promoted, you transitioned to a new company and got a new job, which congrats on that.
Thank you.
So let's get right into the conversation and start off with the beginning. Where did you grow up and what did you think your future career aspirations would be when you were younger?
Yeah. So I grew up in a small town in Jersey called Scotch Plains. It was like super suburban, kind of northern Jersey. Growing up, I actually thought I wanted to, this is gonna sound crazy because people who know me know this, like I wanted to be a dancer. I was really big into like performing arts. I thought about going to school for theater, doing like hip hop dance, being background dancer, like people on tour. That was big. So like all throughout middle school, high school, like people just knew me for like that talent. I did stepping in high school. So I was at step competition. Yeah, like dance was huge. I thought I wanted to go that route. I remember talking to my dad and, I think not that he discouraged it, but he was just like, I don't know if you want to make that a career, which today I feel blessed about because I'm not even like that old, but my hips, this be hurting. I can only imagine where things would have been if I went down that route. But I had a teacher in high school that kind of helped me figure out what I wanted to do. I was interested in business, but also I like fashion also. So then I didn't know there was a lane within fashion you can do called fashion merchandising, which is the business side of fashion, because people just thought, you're going to fashion, you got to design. I can't draw. I don't know anything technical around that sense, but that's when I kind of figured out, all right, let me just go into fashion. Again, that changed down the road, but that was kind of my entryway.
That is so interesting. So I guess you won't be like Beyonce's backup dancer
No,
doing the
no, no, no.
and stuff.
I could do an 8 count, but who knows? But no.
That's good. So it's actually so funny because I actually interviewed Aaron for the podcast as well, and he was a dancer too.
Really?
Yes, I did. I was like, wait, how did this even happen? So I'm gonna ask you the same question. What got you into dancing as a kid? Like, was it just something you enjoyed or?
I think as a kid, you do whatever people tell you you're good at. So if it's encouraged, you kind of go towards that even more. So it was always like, oh, you're so good, you know this dance. So I just kind of kept doing it. The church ministry had like the hip hop crew. I was in there dancing, so people were like, oh, you're so good. So I think having that affirmation made me think that's what my career should have been at that time.
And I think, like growing up in a Black household, your parents love to say, like, oh, look at the little dance that he could do. Go do a little dance.
Right.
Yeah.
Show them that dance she was doing at the house. Yeah.
So you started off wanting to be a dancer, but then your dad kind of like, which I want to say, like, for people who are dancers, you can make a career out of it. I just think, unlike other careers, like maybe let's say like doctor, lawyer, teacher, it's a little bit more challenging because your paycheck starting off may be inconsistent, and then until you build up that repertoire like within the field, it may be harder to like sustain yourself over like starting off at least. But there are like dancers who are successful. It's just a career path that is challenging to get to that point. Yeah.
And I had friends that still went that route. One of my good friends at the time, she went on to like sign with the agency. Will you be watching the VMAs? But like, there she go. Like she was actually doing I'm so proud that she went that route. And I think, I just chose like, I don't know what this looks like long term. And job security is a big thing for me, just growing up. and see my parents work jobs but not have a career. So I think I really want to say, like, what would my career be?
That's good. I love that. Um, so you had a teacher who really pushed you towards fashion merchandise, or at least like you knew you wanted to do fashion, and then she was like, "Oh, well, there's fashion merchandising."
Yeah.
Was that when you got to college what you later on majored in, or did that change over time?
Nope, that was my major. And really, I think it was a bit lucky in the sense that, I was first generation from my parents for like college. So I didn't really know how to even navigate that space. Someone told me fashion merchandising is a path, and I kind of was like, cool, that's what I'm gonna do. So I kind of only applied to certain schools that had that major, or thought like, how can I get to this? Because it was just so unknown and foreign to me. Luckily, there was a school here in New York where they majored in fashion merchandising. I took a visit. I kind of drank the Kool-Aid, quote unquote. I was like, oh wow, I could be at Calvin Klein, I could be at this company, I could be at this company. Yeah, this is where I want to be, right? So went that route, graduated in having a bachelor's in fashion merchandising. But ironically, I did an internship where like it was majority fashion merchandising. And I was that intern who almost fell asleep at the computer. Like it was so boring to me in the sense of like, I don't got the energy for this. Like I just didn't feel creative enough. So I ended up interning for another company later on and doing marketing for them. This was so new, like social media was so new for them. I ended up doing their social media. I remember one day when like Instagram stories just launched. Like I remember that day, and they're like, what should we do on Instagram stories? And because I was so interested in content, they kind of just gave me the keys, quote unquote. But I really worked in marketing my entire career. I never worked fashion merchandising.
Which I think like that all makes sense, because I think I've heard that same thing from friends who have majored in fashion merchandising, or even correct me if I'm wrong, but it's fashion buying is fashion merchandising,
Yep.
right? Yeah, so they said that it's a lot of like spreadsheets all day long, and it's like numbers. And to someone like you who did dance, you want to be creatively stimulated in some type of way. So you transitioning into marketing makes perfect sense. And
Yeah.
I am with you. I remember when Instagram stories first launched, Snapchat was like my thing. And then Instagram stories happened, and sorry to Snapchat, but I quickly left. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Listen, it happens. It made me a career. So, hey, it happens.
Yeah. So what was that like, being tasked with, you can go ahead and do what you want from Instagram stories? I feel like because social media didn't have as much pressure as it does today, you probably were just like, well, I'm just going to create and do what feels right. But I'm just saying that's my opinion. But what was that like for you, like in that
Yeah.
role?
I definitely think for the first 4 years of my like early career, that was very much the sentiment where there was no one in the company doing social. I couldn't look at someone being like, how do you do X, Y, and Z? I had no teacher, mentor, instructor of any of that sense. So it was me, testing and learning, me Googling things, me YouTube University, going on webinars, trying to attend like marketing events and industry events to learn how to do these things, which is so ironic now that I'm really thinking about it, because I feel like I'm also in a space now where I'm teaching other people, which is crazy, but and we'll get there. But it was just so foreign to kind of start out and not know, is this what I'm supposed to do? I know how to post on my own Instagram, but like for a brand, how does this look? So I would literally just like, most of my day would be spent quote unquote researching, but it would be like scrolling on feeds like, all right, what is J. Crew doing? What is this brand doing? Or like, I like how they write copy so minimal. I like how they set up their carousels. Okay, so then like when the art director asks me like, what should we put on social? Here's how I think the carousel should look. And being at a startup, you also are kind of pulled in multiple directions. You kind of do what needs to be done. So I also got to wear multiple hats coming out of college, which helped stimulate me more. Where I was like, cool, I'm going to help manage the store, and we're going to do a pop-up shop over here, and I'm going to capture content. I'm going to bring my camera to shoot. I'm going to do all this. It's such a 360 to where I am today, because now I'm just like strategy or nothing. But at that time, I like just, doing multiple things, kind of figuring out where I wanted to be in this space.
But I think that's also like what comes with just being entry level as well. I do agree that it's more so when you're at a startup in a smaller company that you get to wear those different hats and really like figure out, okay, as I grow in my career, what am I going to like silo out to do and really just design my career to be my main focus.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
Mhm. Another point you made is you did a lot of researching on what like other brands were doing and just like the marketing trends, like maybe marketing information to understand how to use certain features on the platforms. I think that's something that's like a misconception of the social media field is people just think, oh, you just post like beautiful pictures and videos all day, but there's a lot of like research and strategy that comes to it. The reason why a J. Crew or a Calvin Klein may post what they post is because there's a strategy behind it, like believe it or not. Even Rihanna, like there's a strategy behind everything she posts.
Absolutely. And I think, after I left that startup job, I started working for Ralph Lauren. And that was kind of like a boot camp in terms of strategy, because it wasn't just like aesthetic. So like, this looks nice. They had like a whole team. So versus me doing social by just myself, I'm now one of, I think at the time we had close to like 12 people on social. Like it was a huge social team because there's Ralph Lauren collection when like runway, there's like Ralph Lauren coffee, Ralph Lauren fragrances, Ralph Lauren home, there's Polo, but then Polo got men's, women's, kids, Polo sport. Like it was such a ecosystem of social media that I had to now like have thought partners and kind of listen to their perspectives, kind of build out a strategy and sell it up to like the buying team and the merchandise. Like it was such a culture shock, honestly, that's when I really learned like, no, social media is crazy. It's not for the weak. You could be playing something and then sorry. You could be playing something and then the next couple of days, hey, Instagram just changed this feature. You can't do this no more. And like that's happened all the time where like we're planning IGTVs. Next thing you know, hey, IGTV is gone. I had to hit them up like, hey, change the plans. So I also like the element of always staying on your toes. I like being challenged. So having to rethink my strategies. What worked 6 months ago may not work today. Go back to the drawing board. I like kind of always being on my toes and being sharp.
And I think to your point of like the Instagram TV reference, I think it's also like plan ahead in social media, but don't get attached to the plan because it can change at any given moment in time on how that strategy or plan will look. So I'm sure like you being head of content, it could be challenging where you're going. It's like the big meetings where it's like, what is our social media plan for the year? And it's like, this is the plan. But then at the end of the year, it's like, so this is what I said the plan was, and this is how the plan changed. And then this is why, because of the different features or what the different social media platforms are pushing on their platforms.
For sure.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I got nothing.
I wanted to go back. Did you say that you were a content creator before you started like really working in marketing?
I did, yes. So when I was in college, and this has always been like my, theology when it came to college, I was like, it makes no sense that we all go to school for the same thing. And then come graduation, thousands of us are now going to enter the job market and think we're going to get hired. It's just so competitive. It made no sense. And it rings true today when entry-level jobs want 3 to 5 years experience and you're like, fam, where, right? Like how? So before I kind of went into the job market, I was thinking, cool, I want to brand myself. Whenever people think of fashion, I want them to think of me. Whenever I'm on an interview, even though I'm in school, I want to be able to say, yes, I'm in school, but I've also done A, B, and C. So like they know to take me seriously because also just being Black, I know we start at a different point in the race. So I started doing like content creation for brands and IG and like everything was super sex at that time. And I would get like legit brand partnerships and I wasn't charging, which, knowledge, I could have been charging for all this stuff. But I remember there were times when Coach was like coming up with like this new bag. And I was like, cool, send me the bag. I'm gonna take photos of it. Boom, that was it. Post on my IG. But then what that allowed me to do would be like, cool, I got to work with Coach. I did this for Timex. I did this for this brand. I did this, right? So you are using these brands to kind of hold weight in your endeavors to kind of show like, hey, they believe in me. You should too.
And really you were building your portfolio because to your point of like these these different companies asking for so much levels of experience for an entry level role, that's like your kind of like a way around it, is to show
Yeah.
like, hey, this is what I did for myself in order to build myself as a brand, and this is what that can look like if I were to have this job with your company building a
Yep.
brand. And I think with what we're going through with so many people being laid off and things like that, people are now entering the job force who are looking for jobs mixed in with people who are being laid off, looking for roles as well. I know that was I know that that was like something we talked about when we first met, is that you may have positions that are open that are entry level, but there's someone who has like over enough experience, they're overqualified, but you're like, dang, I know you could do this job, but are you gonna stay here because you actually want to stay with the company, you actually want to have this job? Or is it just a filler job until you find something that's more on your level of expertise?
Yeah. I think being a hiring manager is such a responsibility. And at the time in tech, things were just really weird. Google laid off crazy amounts of people. People just woke up who worked for Google for 12 years and like, I don't got a job no more. Facebook laid off people, Twitter, now X laid off people. There was just like so much uncertainty within the tech land space. And I think it was also a domino effect. Like Google laid off people, so then this other company laid off people, and then Yelp laid off people, and then Peloton laid off, and everyone was just like, "Oh, it's just like climate, climate, climate," and it was just like an excuse somewhat, but it was just so scary for a lot of people. And at the time, I did have open roles and was hiring, and because people needed a job, because New York is not cheap, I had people applying for associate roles with like 7 years experience. And that's challenging when you're having those hiring meetings and you're trying to talk through candidates and you're like, this person would supersede our expectations. But are we willing to raise the compensation, because we got to respect them? Like, this role was originally intended for an associate. And we have so many applicants who are overqualified. We have applicants who are underqualified, but just looking for a job. Like, it's a mix now, versus when you used to have maybe one job and they had like 500 applications. Some now getting like 3,000, 8,000 applications. And you are really sifting through incredible candidates, some remote, some willing to do hybrid, some people who like, hey, I'm willing to move. It was just such a weird space, transparently, for hiring, because you have to now consider so many other factors.
I can only imagine. And it's also like with even the associates, like, do you want this job because you genuinely want it, or are you just looking for a foot in the door, and then eventually like you're planning your exit plan like as you're entering? I can.
Yeah, because you don't want to hire the wrong person. You want to hire the right person for the role, the person who's going to be well equipped to do the job that's intended. You want to, and personally, for me, like, I want to hire people who I know, like, I see your potential. I want to invest not just within your career growth. I want to invest in like your personal goals. I want to see your trajectory. Like, you want to see people win. You want to bring them into this organization so that they can do the best work possible. But you also want to be proud of them. Like, hey, you are out here killing it. Go ahead. Like, you want that manager advocating for you. So you want to find that person who not only fits, most of the job description and can do the job competently, but you want to find that person where you're like, I just see so much growth in this person, because you want to invest in people, not just a title.
And the last statement you just made, you want to invest in people. I think it's the same where when people leave jobs, they don't leave companies, they leave like bad, like poor managers. So it's the same thing where it's like, as someone who's had like obviously like good and bad managers, sometimes it's not that I'm leaving the company because I don't believe in what the company stands for. It's just like the manager that I may have had just was like the breaking point of, yeah, it's time to go.
Yeah. And that's a weight of a manager. Whereas like, I want someone to feel fulfilled in their work. I want people to feel autonomous and trusted with their work. I want people to also feel like they're being managed, because people have different levels of management. Some people may think past trauma, like, hey, I need you to tell me what to do. And if you're too hands off, they think you don't care. There's some people who take you asking like, hey, can you send this to me before you send it out, as like mistrust. There's so many things you have to consider, and even shaping your communication style for each direct report. Being a manager has been like a journey, but I think those skills are pivotal for you just within, life.
And really quickly hopping back on the like hiring an employee, what is the
Mhm.
deciding factor for you when you're mixed, where you were mixed with like the employees who are overqualified, employees who are just looking for that foot in the door? How do you sleep well at night knowing like, okay, I made the right choice,
Mhm.
and it is like whatever happens, happens, but I feel like this is the right choice for the company.
Yeah, I think I like to look at somewhat previous work. Sometimes you'll do assessments to really gauge like how they think. And I actually like assessments because gaining a brief understanding of how you think tells me a lot. So this is maybe like industry secret, but I'll share it. So like I would give people an assignment and I say, present it however you want. 3 questions. So like it's super light. I'm leaving it open-ended, present it however you want. However, I'm going to see candidate A made a Word document and just answer all the questions. Candidate B made a presentation. So cool. They don't take like their attention to detail is so much greater. This question might have been like come up with a big idea around X that we totally made up. This is to see your thought process and how you relate goals to strategies. And like I'm looking at this being like, cool, they are thinking big picture, not just do it for fun, but like with a results driven mindset. I love that. I'm like asking questions within this assessment to really just see how you think, how you present your work. And then I want you to present to me, maybe the VP, so we can ask you questions live. But even within that, I want to see how you're presenting your ideas. And not saying that everything needs to be perfect or buttoned up, because public speaking is hard, presenting your ideas is hard, getting that perfect presentation is hard. But these are all things that are trainable. So like if I see a presentation, I'm like, I was structured it this way, I can work with you on that. But I just wanted to see like how you invest in your work. For me, uh, each thing you present is a representation of your work standards, right? So like if I'm going to give you, you ask for something and I'll give it to you in like an email or Slack format, it's just quick. If I put a document together, it's because I cherish this idea and I want to present it in the best way possible. So I want people to really just hold deep like the work that they're doing, because that's something that's, hey, this person had the logo the same size every single slide. They had this was like left aligned so perfectly. I look at that because I just know you were so meticulous with how you presented this. You cared.
And I think depending on like, well, not depending on any company that the person may be interviewing for, it just shows that you did the research to
Yeah.
understand what like once you're in the company, you'll know like the brand guidelines of like this is the font size we use, this is like
Yep.
how we do presentations. But like you not being in the company, you did the research to figure out, okay, I see that they always do the post like this. So maybe if this is what the assignment is, maybe I should do it like this to like build on what they already have established, but also show how I plan to like amplify what they already have in
Yeah.
place. Yeah.
And I honestly think when I applied to Squarespace, I talked to my manager later. Like I gave Squarespace a PDF because they gave me an assignment. And that's what he told me. He said, some people gave us emails back, some gave people Word docs. You had a whole PDF, title slide, headline, agenda. Then like this one had like a phone mock-up of what this would look like. Like it was, I want to show them like, because again, I was going from fashion to tech, which could be a huge leap for some, and people it doesn't translate. But I think that helped get me in the door. So I don't want people to take that lightly. Like those opportunities to like prove getting in the door and transitioning is the best. And if we're gonna be real, like I'm blessed to be in tech. I would never go back to fashion. I'm sorry. I love fashion. I could wear the clothes. I don't gotta be involved in it. Tech is great.
I don't blame you. Currently I'm actually like releasing a series around like mental health in fashion, because fashion is not for the weak. Like
Ooh.
it's one thing to like have great style, which you do, you have a great style, but I think it's another thing to work within the fashion industry. It is
Yeah.
like it can be a lot on your mental health. And then
All right.
similar to dance, you are not getting paid the fashion money when you first get in there.
Yeah.
You sometimes have to wait until you're like managerial, even like director almost levels to really
Yeah.
be making the money to buy the fashion things
Absolutely.
that you see. Yeah.
Absolutely. And when I was at Ralph, listen, I'd be in the office around 8, leave around 10. But I knew coming in that was gonna be like my hustle season, and like I had to really just gain up this information. But even my partner said like that wasn't the best for your mental health. I saw you, and you were just like tired constantly. So I definitely, people in fashion, like I'm here for y'all. I can answer so many questions, but I don't think fashion respects mental health enough.
It doesn't. I just think about like different designers, like, Kate Spade, she committed suicide, and just that people look at, I think, careers like fashion, entertainment, and also even like social media and think like,
Yeah.
oh, it's so easy, it's
It's
simplistic, and
glamorous, it's romanticized.
mm-mm. No. I know like my joke, like within a lot of the companies I worked with, is I work in PR, not ER. So like, yes, what we do in these fields it's very important because it guides the trends and like what
Yeah.
people do and how like they dress or what inspires them. But I think like no one knows what we're doing. No one knows behind closed doors what we're doing. So we can release this at any point. But I think it's the rush to want to be the first that
Yeah.
a lot of people kind of forget the mental health aspect of it, amongst other things. But one of the things is that people want to be the first sometimes, like get their creative thoughts out there, that mental health goes out the door.
I love it's PR, not ER. That's so good.
Yeah, I know an old coworker I had, like I was in-house at a company and she was our PR agency. And that was like our little quote, like back and forth to each other, that like, anytime I send you an email, it's never a rush unless I say it's a rush, like obviously. But for the most part, let's just enjoy the job that we're doing and make the most of it.
I love that because
Mhm.
it also just reminds you like work will always be there.
It's gonna be there. And then you're doing so much that you could be laid off, or like so much can, like, not even laid off. You can always be like transferred to a different role. Like, oh, we're restructuring the job roles and what your job duties are. So you're not even working on that project you're working on last week. Like now you're on to this. So it's just have fun with it and just don't put too much pressure.
Yeah.
So I did want to go back. You started off as a content creator, then you landed the role within the fashion space. I do want to tap a little bit into your mental health within fashion, but I do want to ask what made you, as a content creator, from where I'm getting from you, is that you were more like into luxury fashion than just fashion as in general. What made you focus your content creation, like your portfolio, on luxury fashion? And how did you land that first role within Ralph Lauren?
I would say I was interested in like either because even at Ralph, like people will be dressed in like the equestrian boots. They'd be having the whole denim look. And I love that. I also kind of being at fashion school, you saw how everyone dressed and people would get in internships and like, well, I'm going to Valentino and I'm going over here, right? So like it was always this prestigious thing, but I knew that there's money to be made in every level of fashion. So whether I worked in just casual menswear and streetwear, if I worked in luxury, there was money to be made. The industry is going to be the same. Like people be making bank at Nike. And listen, like, so it's for me, it was just like transferable. It doesn't matter. I started doing content creation primarily because I didn't, see it. But it was also that for back to that earlier point where I didn't see the value in just going through college, focusing on just college and graduating and being like, cool, I'm ready to work. And then having to hustle to get a job. Cause I saw that. My goal was to get a job before I graduated, like to get an offer letter signed before I graduated college, so that it was just peace of mind. That's just what I wanted personally. So that's was like a lot of my decision making was filtered through that lens. But I actually got my first job at Ralph Lauren through LinkedIn. And this is why it's been a consistent theme in my life because my first job, the company was called Greats. It was a sneaker brand based in Brooklyn. They're still around today, but they were bought by Steve Madden. Um, I got that because I was a college ambassador for them and I would be making content. And they said, hey, if you sell for every 10 pairs of sneakers you sell, you get a pair of sneakers. As a broke college student in fashion, I was like, I like sneakers, done. I ended up selling like 300 something pairs. They would send me like 30 pairs of sneakers. My house was flooded with sneakers and shoe boxes. There were times where like they're doing collabs or like special releases and they're like, hey, we're gonna send you a pair because you're crushing it. So I think at one point I had close to like 50 something sneakers from this brand. They then said like, just come intern for us. So like that turned to an internship and that was my first job. So like I got that first job simply through like content creation, which was dope. And then I got my second job because LinkedIn reached out to me. Ralph Lauren reached out to me via LinkedIn. A recruiter hopped on a phone call, went in for some interviews and then landed that. But as you'll see, like most jobs I've worked has not been because I submitted my resume through like an application portal. It's been because, LinkedIn has just paved the way for people to reach out to me. And that's why I've always kind of leaned into that vertical.
And jumping ahead a little bit, because this is a question I have later on, you're a LinkedIn content creator. At this time, you weren't obviously LinkedIn content creator. You were just genuinely putting out your content and brands were just reaching out to you of, hey, we like your content, come work for us. Like we're past the partnership phase. Okay.
Yeah. And again, like it wasn't necessarily that I even posted regularly on LinkedIn or anything, but I think I would just engage with people's content. I would still connect with recruiters. I might have, posted that, hey, Facebook for Business featured our content and interviewed us, right? Or like, hey, here, but it wasn't even something, active all the time.
You were just, I think in my eyes, that's like a form of networking where you're not like networking with the intention of, let me go talk to this recruiter and get a job. It was more so, let me promote what my job is doing. And then like, if there is a recruiter that I just so happen to want to speak to, I may slide into their DMs and send them a message. But for the most part, you're just genuinely being active when they ask.
Absolutely. I think at that time I didn't realize it, but even like within college, like when people think of fashion, I want them to think of me. That's personal branding, right? When I'm making content creation, I'm already providing a need for a service, right? Like I'm figuring out a service for a need. Like I'm figuring out what these things were without really having a name for them. So even figuring out like, cool, I'm going to maybe lightly speak on social media and then like maybe optimize my LinkedIn profile to get discovered. Social media marketing, let me update all these job resumes. At the time I had like bullets for what I did for every role, right? I was like optimizing my profile for discovery, but down the line, it kind of made sense. But what I really was doing was just making sure that this page is optimized and set up for success so that when recruiters do reach out or maybe see my content, they know, oh wow, let's bring him in, right?
I think a quote that I try to live by is like, stay ready so that way you don't have to get ready. And from what you just described, you wanted that if a recruiter looked at your profile, it was fully fleshed out with, here's like at least like a snapshot of your accomplishments, if not all of your accomplishments. And they were able to say, okay, there's no questions, like he would be perfect for this role, or even things that aren't even posted, like roles that aren't even alive yet. They're just like, oh yeah, let's totally bring him in. We don't even need to post the job posting.
That is such a good point, because some people only see LinkedIn as applying for jobs. But I can tell you from experience, there have been so many recruiters that have reached out to me with, this is a confidential role, right? Or like, hey, we're some big companies won't post the role because they'll just get a whole bunch of applicants. They go through recruiter agencies and those agencies will find the people. So there's been constant moments in my career where I'm getting approached by like maybe for a confidential role, and I'll have a conversation here or there maybe, but yeah, figuring out, like you said, like stay ready so you don't gotta get ready, right? I may not be looking for a job today, but I'm gonna make sure that the job will find me when it's ready.
I can attest to that. I've gotten, I think, like 2 roles from positions that have never been posted. It's just like you said, bigger companies don't want the waste of, I think, well, let me not say waste. They don't want the hassle of having like so many applicants applying. They really want, I think, like just already have that elevated talent. So to your point, having like an optimized LinkedIn and just having your page like I think like SEO optimized and just always being ready, it helps recruiters who are just actively recruiting and not going to post the role.
Absolutely. And at that time in college, I connected with recruiters at big companies I wanted to work at. So really, because it was like a fashion lens, I'm gonna connect with people and talent and recruiting managers at Nike, and then this one's at J. Crew.
Yeah.
These people do what for H&M? Like, where's H&M's New York office? Like, I was trying to figure out, like, at one point, legit, kid you not, I would be mailing in resumes. It got me nowhere, by the way. It got me absolutely nowhere. But I would be, if they ain't connect me on LinkedIn, I would mail my resume into that job. I don't recommend that, but I was just hungry to like get my foot in the door.
Well, okay, the mailing your resume, I get that, but I have seen people. Oh, I remember when I was in college and I was looking for internships, there were people who would like, let's say you're applying to Nike, they would like put together like an actual like 3D piece or something that like related to the role that they were applying to and send that in. Did you ever think of doing something like that?
I didn't, because the roles I was applying to, it wasn't like nothing glamorous to where like I could give them a prototype. It was really roles where I just had to like show my level of thinking and maybe, talent in social media. And my resume kind of called out, like I had a personal website since I can't, like probably college. Like I had a Squarespace website since college, which is ironic. I ended up working for them. But that website got me so much business and things naturally that was my, calling card. Be like, here's all my work.
So we've talked a lot about personal branding so far. Before we like segue into the next topic, another topic we've also talked about is that a lot of people are like searching for jobs, whether they be entry level, or there are people who have just been laid off, or people just at jobs that they don't want to be at anymore. Mm-hmm. What is a personal branding tip that you would give to someone, or even like you being someone who hires talent that you see, like you'll go on LinkedIn pages and you're like, darn, I wish this person would do this, or I wish this person had that, or they're missing this key thing. What's a personal branding tip that you would give to someone who may be either entry level, or there's someone who's seasoned in a role, or there's someone who's at a job that they're looking to get out of?
I think, and I know why people do this, I think there's so much misconception with like quote unquote free information. Some people think like, now you gotta pay me for everything. You gotta pay me for everything, right? But we know that education is going to lead to so much. Different industries will call it something else, but like leads, inbound traffic, people reaching out to you for like more, expand upon this, right? I'm not afraid to give out like a free idea on LinkedIn when I post. I remember I did a post one time, and my LinkedIn posts don't be long. Sometimes they be like tweets. But I remember I posted one time on LinkedIn, like brands aren't using Instagram close friends enough to spark community. And then people hit me out like, wait, brands could do close friends? Because some people never thought about close friends for brands. So I was like, absolutely. Why wouldn't you add the people who like are fans of your brand, or like the high influencer talent who got like 100K who follow you? Hey, let's add them to close friends. Because that green bubble going to come in the front. People are going to see that green bubble from a brand and be like, oh, wait, hold up. Let me get at, what is this? Now we're doing all the exclusive information. Hey, this is coming out in a day. Test it out here. Building hype. And I think those little free strategies, show that you are thinking outside the box. So then people within your industry start to take notice. Recruiters have to be like, oh, well, I found this applicant who seems to kind of align with the roles we talked about yesterday. Where like you want someone on like, let's say, a thumb on the pulse of the industry, right? Like there's so many things there, but people are so cognizant of like, I don't want to give anything out for free. You got to pay me for everything. I feel like I give so much free gems and knowledge on LinkedIn, whether it's like, hey, in order to boost your candidacy and like get like an interview, do this. Hey, if you're looking at this strategy, do this, right? I just share my thoughts, because having that one LinkedIn post is not going to get you 10x revenue, right? You need like a full strategy and like the whole thought and walk that behind it. They're going to get that when they hire you, but don't be afraid to just show your value.
I definitely agree. I think during my daytime, I like am in the influencer marketing industry, and I have a lot of friends who are like nano influencers, and they're like, I'm charging for everything. And I'm like, well, no, I think that yes, there is a value to what you provide, and you should obviously like have brands pay that cost, but I don't think it always has to be monetary related. I think like, if you're on PR lists and a brand sends you a product, maybe you only post to your Instagram story. So that way it's on your platform that the brand can see that you posted about it, but it doesn't have to live in your platform. But I do think that you shouldn't always go after a brand and expect them to like monetize it. There's value into like what you hold, and then you don't know how that could be blocking your blessing into like another paid collaboration, or it leading to like more longevity of money.
Absolutely.
And I think like the knowledge part, it's also that you can say so many things that you do on LinkedIn, but I think one thing I've learned is that I can give someone advice, but people are going to still do what they want to do. So like, what does it cost me if I tell you this piece of advice and you're still going to do like whatever floats your boat? I
Yep.
think the people who are going to take the advice and actually act on it, those are people that are going to get further or actually see like results from it.
Yep.
And be able to attest like, oh yeah, this is like valuable information.
Could not agree more.
Mhm. So during your time in fashion, you mentioned that you were struggling a bit with your mental health. What was, I know you said that your partner like brought that up to you, like, hey, like I see that you're like not the brand that I know.
Yeah.
How was that process of recognizing my mental health is taking a toll in this? And was that also the deciding factor of you leaving the fashion industry and transitioning into tech?
Yeah, I definitely think at that time, I didn't classify it, but it was like just burnout. It was, working till 10 constantly isn't sustainable. At the time, before COVID, I would be in the office till 10 because after 10, you can expense Ubers home. You can get lunch or like dinner. I was like, cool, if I go home, I'm going to keep working anyway. So like, might as well just stay here, keep working and then get dinner and a car home. So that was really the ethos of everything where I was just working. I feel like it sounds bad. I also want to prove myself. And maybe that's like imposter syndrome of like me feeling like I'm at Ralph Lauren. Like it's such a prestigious name. And with my background is so foreign. So I need to, prove I can do this work. And I think sometimes in fashion, and not saying all companies do this, but you may not get the good job. It's always the next time do this, right? So it was always kind of like this dangling carrot of like, all right, I gotta keep at it. I gotta keep at it. So I think that kind of jaded me at that time.
They always want to humble you, I think. Like
Yeah,
they never want to say, like you said, like a good job. It's always like I have to keep you humble and keep you hungry.
yeah,
It's Devil Wears Prada. Like she never said like a good job to them, even though she'll give like the smirk, and that was the way of knowing like,
yeah,
okay, that was a good thing that I just did.
absolutely. And again, that's not me as a manager. I want people to know like, hey, you just crushed that, right? Like, of course you can give them feedback, but everyone's learning style is very different. So, it is what it is.
And I don't know if you feel this way. Obviously, I don't know what it would be like to work in some of the fashion houses you worked in, but do you think that as a Black male, well, let me first get a clarifying question. Were you one of the few Black people within these spaces, and then two, were you one of the few like Black males within these spaces?
Yes and yes. I think I didn't work with a team really of Black people until Squarespace. But really in fashion, it was just myself. There was some other teams who were like, had someone over there, had someone over there. Luckily, like Ralph Lauren, I did speak on a panel during Black History Month because I started meeting other people, and like that was refreshing and kind of just learning, this community that was behind you. But absolutely, like it was just, yeah.
Yeah. The reason why I say that is because I think like you made a point earlier that when you're in these spaces, you really want to like put your best foot forward because you are one of few. But I think it also attests to the fact that you want to make sure you also want to attest to the fact that you want to make sure that whenever you decide to leave the company, that whoever comes in behind you, that you're leaving the door open and the opportunity for them to be able to enter the space and really just show up as their best self as well.
Yeah, and that's a weight that isn't fair. That's something you got to think about. Where like they hired me, but if I mess up, they ain't gonna hire no one else to look like that's just it just sucks. But now as a hiring manager, I feel like I also want to hire a diverse team that looks like me and that is capable of doing the job also.
Okay, so we have kind of have to like finish in the fashion space, personal branding in some ways. Now you've entered the tech space. Was Squarespace one of your first roles within the tech space?
Very first one.
How is that transition from fashion to tech?
I actually liked it because personally, when it comes to marketing, business, I like looking at competitors outside your vertical. So when I was at Ralph Lauren, I kind of learned this from them where they wanted to see what Fendi and Mac are doing. They're luxury. So what's BMW doing? What's Tesla doing? It's like even pulling from different examples. So coming from fashion and entering the tech space, even though I'm pretty sure within Squarespace, they wanted to see like, what is MailChimp doing? What is GoDaddy doing? What is this tech company? What is Salesforce doing? Like, I didn't pull any of those examples. I was like, so here's what Mr. Porter did. Here is what Topicals and did, but then here's what this other, like, I was just pulling different examples. I also think it made the creative teams like eyes open a lot wider when like I'll be presenting things. I would show them examples of, you know, what this beauty brand did, what this car company did, what this outdoor company did, because creatives love thinking big. So like for them, it was just amazing. I also think in terms of getting hired and maybe working with my direct team, it was like, oh, he comes in with a real fresh perspective, because sometimes tech can get very mundane, B2B. And Squarespace is such a consumer product. I don't think they want it to be too B2B, even though there's a B2B side of the business. So me coming in, it was more so I'm going to think very differently. And I think that helped me with like a lot of executions where I was like, all right, we should be doing this. We should be doing this. One of the first projects I led was like a live stream across Squarespace's like Instagram. It was like YouTube and Facebook at the time. And I just came off of doing the same thing for Ralph Lauren. It was like a Chance the Rapper live stream at the Chicago Ralph Lauren store, and I got to lead that. So I'm on the call with these people, and they're like, "Wait, do you know this person?" I was like, "Yeah, I know this person. I just work with the like." So literally within like my first 3 weeks, I'm leading a project, and my team's looking at me like, "Oh, he did this, but in fashion." So like I think even that was reassuring in the sense of, you know, things are very transferable.
I think what you described, in my opinion, is how to remain like a disruptor in the space and how to like just because we're in the fashion or the tech industry doesn't mean that our only competitors are people within our same industries. It's also seeing what are people doing in other categories, and is there an opportunity for us to collab with them? Because for example, like how you said topicals, like I don't know if topical, I don't think topical was around maybe when you were at Squarespace, but say like you were back at Squarespace, it's also of okay, should we like do a collaboration with us and topicals, and like we're bridging the gap of beauty and tech. So doing like a content post or something like that, just to show like, hey, if you have a beauty brand, this is how Squarespace can work for you. So
Yeah.
it's that. And I agree with you. I think that's something I noticed in my last like contract role. I think that people were just very like rigid in the fact of it always has to be like this. And I think as we see, social media is changing so much that you have to be ready and willing to try any and everything. Yes, it's easier to do what's always been done, but it can be longer lasting to try other things and seeing like how that can affect the team.
Yeah. Which, you know, I think it makes you better equipped in some sense when like there's a brainstorm, and instead of looking like what are our competitors doing, you're really thinking like, well, you know what? I saw Fenty Beauty do this, and yes, they can do it like A, B, and C because of where they are, but we can adapt it through our lens, and that allows you to come up with fresher ideas or ideas that have never been done before.
I agree. I definitely agree. And I love like everything Fenty does. I know Rihanna just recently launched like her maternity line, even though
Right.
I'm not with child, I still think it's amazing. So as you made the transition to tech, how was your mental health affected, and how were you able to like manage your mental health in this new industry?
Yeah, I loved it. I think tech does offer you um more benefits for your mental health. I think at Squarespace they gave us like free headspace. You get free that, right? It's like there's a lot more things that kind of support your mental health, but I also had a leadership team that would kind of maybe see my green Slack bubble and be like, log off. Right. So like that was good for me to also notice like, hey, I don't need to keep at it, keep working, even though you can add things to your to-do list forever. Right. So that's when I really learned like, hey, work will always be here. You're not going to run out of to-dos. they said, don't worry, we got work for you, but like take care of yourself. So I think that's really helped me out.
And I think, like you mentioned, when you started off in the fashion industry and just also being new to your career, you said like you were in the hustle season. I think now you were in like the thriving season. I know, like for
Yeah,
myself, like I have that question where I ask myself, like, am I surviving right now? Or am I thriving? Like, what is it? And you were definitely like starting to thrive and really just be able to manage your mental health more and get a lot more like comfortable in like where you are in
absolutely.
your career. Yeah.
Absolutely. I definitely think that's a good way to frame it. Like this is the thrive season where I need to take care of myself because I got to take care of other people and people are going to be dependent on me. But that's why I think Squarespace kind of enabled this where it wasn't like work starts directly at 9 o'clock, right? 9:30ish, right? Maybe some people get in at 10. We're going to be honest, it's tech. It's like, cool, let me go to the gym before work. Let me do this. Like, let me do things for myself. Because when I was at Ralph, it was like, wake up, go to work till 10, come home, do it all again. So when you're doing that, that's what causes burnout. So I think learning that, I was like, all right, personally for me, no matter what job I'm at, I cannot wake up and immediately start working. That is terrible for my mental health. So even today, I will go for a run, I'll work out, I'll do something, I'll clean the kitchen. I'm gonna do something for myself before I serve someone else. So even if it's like, let me do something for my business, let me work on this. That's the thing I need to do.
That's so I like to go to the gym in the mornings and say like no matter what day I'm having, whether it's me working or like it's the weekend, I have to do something for myself before I pour into others throughout the day.
Yes.
And the gym is for me is at least like my time to like pour into myself. No one's gonna bother me. I'm at the gym at like 5 a.m. So no one's definitely up bothering me. So I can just pour into myself before I give all of my time and energy to a job or
Yeah.
family or friends or significant others. So yeah. So your career has evolved rather quickly over the last few years, especially being within tech. What is your advice to a social media marketer of color that may want to enter the space, but well, no, what is your advice in general to anyone who may want to enter a space in the social media industry or in the creative world?
That wants to enter in the social media industry. My advice would be put your work out there. I actually had a creative hit me up today who was like asking about LinkedIn. There's like, how do us creatives, as in like filmmakers, do LinkedIn? And I kind of mentioned that, LinkedIn is perceived as buttoned up formal business. Only CEOs post, people with headshots that have like a collared shirt. Everyone's talking as if they're on a TED Talk panel. And I'm like, forget that. My LinkedIn profile is a beanie. I basically talk about anything and everything. Uh and I'm just authentic to myself, but I'm also going to put my work out there. So the thing about LinkedIn is that the people who are on the back end, maybe making the influencer deals, maybe booking people for the campaign, maybe leading up this initiative, they are all here. So if you're a photographer, if you're a videographer, if you're a social media person, like put your work out there because people are like, wow, I just saw a photographer. His name is Max. I forget his last name, but if you look on LinkedIn, uh, he's a photographer and he just did some work for Airbnb. He's a beautiful photographer. He kept putting his work out there. Airbnb is sending him everywhere to get just beautiful images of the world. So he just has these great landscapes. Next thing you know, probably Away is going to hit him up like, hey, we want you to do this for our, like companies are going to see your work and allow LinkedIn or wherever your social media preference is, like to be your calling card. Some people know, like you ask not because you have now. Like I used to always put out, hey, just launched this store. Hey, congrats to the team on like this Snapchat integration. Hey, the rapper live stream was so dope, right? Talk about your work.
Earlier you made a point that you rarely have to apply for roles. You got a lot of roles because of your engagement on LinkedIn and you just interacting with people. I think also another thing, even though I'm not in the HR field or on that side of it,
Mhm.
a lot of people don't like to hire strangers. They rather hire like referrals or people that they know of like their work because it gives them more confidence in saying like, yes, we should hire this person because such and such said that they're a good fit for this role or because I've seen their work here, here, and here. So
Yeah,
to your point of like put yourself out there, putting yourself out there can lead to like your next job opportunity or your next collab. It can lead to so many opportunities that you don't know what until you actually just put yourself out there.
Absolutely. I mean, I used to be very candid with people, be like, listen, applying is ghetto. It is not for me. You gotta be up changing your resume. Thank God that, like, cover letters are kind of like dying out, but you have to then adjust your cover letter for everyone. You gotta remember to change the dear for this role, this role, this role. Like, it's draining. It's
And
draining.
it's still the jobs that still have like the red asterisk where you have to upload a cover letter, and it's like,
Yeah.
girl, you really want me to like upload this cover letter?
It's just a lot to do. So I think, finding a way to bypass that was like the
Mhm.
main objective.
No, I definitely agree. So we've touched on your LinkedIn, your time on LinkedIn as like a creator. So I remember growing up and being in college and having to make a LinkedIn. I never thought in my deck of cards that LinkedIn would be where we're at a point where there are LinkedIn creators. How did that come about for you?
Yeah. I think I forget when like this whole creator surge kind of came up. I kind of feel like the influencer people say it's oversaturated, but everything's oversaturated. So like that means nothing. But I remember like when Firefest happened, I thought like, oh, that's the end of influencers. Truly, I thought like when you had influencers promote a festival, people go to the festival and it's terrible. That was so bad for the influencer reputation. Like this is almost the end.
But
And
also celebrities as well, because there are a lot of like
celebrities,
Kendall Jenner. I think I feel so
yeah,
bad for her because she always gets dragged into stuff. But yeah.
yeah. That was when I was like, oh, I don't know what's gonna happen with the whole influencer space. And then I think slowly after that, you're seeing people more lean into the word creator, because instead of me just saying buy this or like my life, like, hey, I create content, I actually do this. Like, I remember every company was trying to speak to creators. Pinterest is now a place for creators. Instagram got their own creators. TikTok got their own creators. YouTube been had their own creators, but like now they're going all in even more. So then LinkedIn, I think you just gotta find that white space. At one point, I thought I was gonna be a Clubhouse creator, right? But I kind of said, you know what, let me focus on LinkedIn because I kind of do enjoy the business and corporate space as is. I like conversing with peers who look like me and people who've had the same experience as me and people who've had maybe the same job titles as me. So let me just keep, going in on this. And I think after a certain point, I was like, let me stop playing around with LinkedIn. I'm kind of like half-assing it. Let me just do let me do 90 days of like taking LinkedIn seriously. And I'm not saying I post every single day, but like for 3 months, I'm just going to take this seriously and see what happens. Best decision of my life, because people don't know is I only started posting regularly on LinkedIn November 2022. So it hasn't even been a full year. And my following on LinkedIn has grown from like 3,000 ish to like 19,000. The amount of brand deals that people are getting through LinkedIn, crazy. Partnerships, crazy. Events, crazy. And then jobs, like that was the ultimate goal. And even having kind of this ecosystem where things are just working is just amazing.
Wow, I actually do think I heard you say that in another presentation, but I really did forget. And being that I met you at the brunch in January, I would have thought you were on LinkedIn for years. The way that you have like your content strategy, it feels like I don't want to say buttoned up, but it's really well, it's really good to me. So I wouldn't have even known that.
Yeah, no, it has not been long at all. I
Wow.
think it's truly, and I'm not like, I'm not paid to say this by LinkedIn. It's just, it has worked out in my favor.
Yeah, that's really good. Wow. Now I'm sorry, I'm still so amazed by that. So yeah, that's really good. Um, so I don't want to graze over the fact that you are an award-winning content marketer. What has the feeling been like to see projects that you worked on recognized and awarded for what you've done?
I think, and I also recognize that there are a lot of marketers who can win awards if like their work was submitted, if their company had the resources. So I also don't want that to like weigh more than other people, because I don't think I'm the only one who can win awards. But uh it's good to see like, oh wow, this idea has been respected, not just by like the internal company and they're like, oh, that's awesome, but like people outside the company. And of course, nothing's made in like a vacuum, right? So it's not just you. you're bringing ideas together. But when they come to like, all right, from like a content or social lens, what is best practice? What do we do? I thoroughly enjoy being able to offer a perspective that is going to drive real results, because I'm also a social marketer who doesn't believe in just like reporting on impressions, because that does next to nothing.
Okay, so moving into towards some mental health questions. How do you manage working in social while also being a creator on top of like spending time with like family, friends, and even like your partner?
Yeah. Uh, I think time management is literally something I've even like invested in recently, where I've been watching creators about like productivity. So literally on my calendar, this seems OCD to some people. It says wake up. Like at 6 a.m., my calendar says wake up. From 6:30 to 8, it says gym. From this time to this time, it says shower. Like I literally at 9 o'clock, it says get ready for bed. Like I'm really managing my time in that way, because I know for this next season, that's what it's going to require. Um, when it comes to posting, I don't post every single day manually. I had a post go out on LinkedIn today. I said, oh, I forgot I wrote that. Like things are all scheduled. I'll sit down on a Saturday. I have a calendar block for 2 hours that says write content. And I will draft content, because I knew I was starting this new job. I actually wrote content all the way up until September, like the first week of September. So like every post you see on LinkedIn from now until like September 1st, let's say, has been written weeks ago. And then I will develop content later on for those. Let's say like in a couple of weeks, I'm gonna write all content for September. I do that because that allows you to then create mental space for what matters, because I don't want to be posting every single day. I don't want to be doing this every single day. I want to have time with my partner, have time to do work, have time to do things I care about. So that's just like what's important to me.
And I'm sure LinkedIn compared to other platforms, well, actually, I'll let you answer this. So, in my opinion, I feel like LinkedIn compared to other platforms, you don't have to be as on it because, Instagram, for example, there's Instagram posting on the feed, Instagram posting in the stories, Instagram posting a reel. Are you using broadcasting? Are you like messaging people? There's so many different things that you have to be doing or checking boxes in order to be seen as engaged. Do you feel like LinkedIn kind of like helped to take the pressure off to be as active as other platforms?
Somewhat. I mean, I think you still want to engage those comments. You still want to reply back to people. I will say the one thing that's kind of crazy about LinkedIn is the DMs. More than any, like all the messages, like that's something where you want to answer those. Not that it hurts your engagement, but if I don't answer DMs, on a day I actually get like 20. Like it's that insane. Uh, from people asking for advice, from people just wanting to connect, from vendors pitching me on products. So I mean, it adds to the calendar. Every day I have an hour block that says answer DMs and emails.
And what you said, I'm the exact same. I thought I was a little crazy for this. I have like shower, get ready, breakfast. Like I have like everything calendar blocked off and color coded just to kind of like help keep me on track because sometimes I'll go off and just start doing random stuff. And some days I'll let myself do it, but some days I'm like, no, you gotta get
Yeah.
it done.
Because if you don't, you'll be like, oh, now my day's all messed up. I gotta do this tomorrow. Now I gotta work late. Like it messes you up. Not saying I go to bed at the same time because I need to get more sleep. But that even keeps me honest, like, hey, you should be doing this. Ideally, this is what things should look like.
And I use like the Apple feature for like my bedtime. So it told me like, okay, start to
Yep.
wind down. So like that'll help me like, okay, I need to get in the headspace of it's time for me to get ready to go to bed.
Yep.
Wow, I didn't know about the link. I didn't realize about the LinkedIn DMs. Of course, I didn't think like, of course, people are DMing you like that. Quick question. If someone was to DM you to get advice or they're looking for a job, whatever the case may be, what is a way to stand out to you?
That's a good question. I would say, and again, this is personal preference. You don't gotta like add fluff. Like I had people hit me up, hey, how you doing? I don't got time to answer this. I'm fine. Like, if you need something, ask it. That's just how I am personally. Like, hey, I'm graduating and I'm struggling to get this. Now, give me some time. and I'm trying to like there's things I miss, there's messages I miss, there's some that I see that I'm like it's not worth it because I answered some posts. I think some people maybe that may be like their method of building a rapport when you could tell like this ain't no real question, but where I can tell like oh no this person got an answer, just like tell me what you need, tell me what you're looking for. Hey, especially in this market, I'm very cognizant of like people are saying, hey, I've been on the job market for 3 to 6 months now and nothing's happened. I will look at your LinkedIn and I'll hit you with bullet points. Change this, change this, change this, change this, fix this up. You have your resume attached to your LinkedIn, so also look at your resume. Make sure all these verbs are in the current tense. Fix this up, move this section up. Like, I will just give you advice in bullet note fashion.
Nice. That's so nice of you because I know like that's going above and beyond. So yeah, that's very nice of you.
I will try. I'm like,
So going back into the mental health questions,
yeah.
we've kind of like touched on this question a little bit throughout your time in fashion and tech, but how do you manage your mental health as a Black man in social media? The reason why I brought up this question is because, you know, like you've been in social media during things like 2020 with like Black Lives Matter, and even before that with 2012 with Trayvon Martin and different things that have come up.
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage staying present and getting the job done while also like managing your mental health and what's going on within current events?
Yeah, I think similar to the other point, like work will always be there. These apps are designed to where you can scroll and you're going to get more content the more you scroll. So I remind myself that, you know what? I don't need to see every single thing. It's always going to be there. And I will say, you know, I'm not perfect. There are times when like things do get to me. I remember during the Trayvon Martin and Black Lives, during the George Floyd, I was at Ralph and I had coworkers who don't look like me just asking, how's everyone's weekend? Hi, everyone, like just on calls. And I was just out of it, right? Like it was just, things just weigh on you. And I think that was a moment where I was kind of just vulnerable, being like, hey, you know, there are things going on in this world that's like affecting real coworkers. And I'm glad, like, you know, the team later kind of got it, being honest, like it wasn't an immediate thing. And even management being like, we're sorry, we didn't even like ask, how are you doing? You know, but I'm glad later down the line, things got better, but it's a work in progress. I think protecting your mental health at any cost. I've managed people who work in social who say, oh, I don't use Instagram. You know, and I'm not gonna be as your manager. No, you need Instagram. Hey, I get it. If that's not what you need for yourself, that's fine. You know, work is work. You can do it on your computer. I'll give you a work phone. That's fine. But whatever people need to do to just protect themselves, I'm all for.
Okay, so whenever I was interviewed for roles in the social media, a common question, or even influencer marketing, a common question I got asked, I'm going to ask you is, how do you separate working in social media from actually like enjoying social media?
That's a good one because at one point, social felt like work because that's literally was like the same thing. I mean, I think in some ways I'm comfortable with bridging some things where, you know, hey, you could save content on TikTok and Instagram. I have a folder for my saves as like content examples, you know, copy examples, ideas, like where I can bridge things, but I'm also a content creator myself. So I can be scrolling and things could spark an idea for my personal stuff. So I'm comfortable with like being active on social media, sometimes scrolling on social media and like banging this away from my, you know, for my corporate job or maybe my personal work. But I think where I am, because it's kind of where like I'm a corporate leader and a creator and doing things like it's just things in my life are just so mixed right now, to where it just like, hey, this is my reality, but I don't complain about what I prayed for. So like, hey, this is what I'm doing.
That, and I think it's also that you have to know that like when you ask the universe or God for things, that it comes with work, and like you have to work in order to keep it, depending on what the thing is. Because some things may come easy and it may be like an easy thing to keep, but you got to get ready to do the work.
Yeah.
So our last mental health question before we jump into some fun questions, what does self-care look like for you?
Ooh, haircuts every 2 weeks, manicure, pedicure. No, just like taking care of myself to make me feel good. I think, eating well is self-care. I only drink water. I've been drinking water this whole call. Like it's that's self-care to me. Making sure I'm at my best. And this also comes with being able to operate at your like highest level. But I know there are habits that like take from my energy, right? I can't drink like I used to because I wake up the next day feeling, oh, I'm just right. I can't do that. I can't afford to have a bad day just where I am in this season. If I don't work out for a couple of days, I know I'm gonna feel groggy. If I don't eat right, hey, I invest in clothes, I invest in this, I give everyone else money. I need to put back into myself. That's just, where things are.
I think I was gonna say for you, where is if you look good, you feel good, but I feel
Yeah,
like health is wealth is I feel like the statement for you.
absolutely. Yeah. Like, I
Yeah.
will invest in whatever I need to make myself feel better. And that's, my partner says that you always buying stuff. I will buy stuff for myself to make myself feel better.
Exactly. Treat yourself. That's my favorite quote. Treat yourself. Don't ask me if I should buy it. I'm gonna tell you yes, buy it. Okay, so going into some fun questions. For the context of this, I'm gonna say Twitter instead of X because I still don't
Okay.
know I don't get what the X part is, but it's just like really quick, like back and forth questions, and I have like one final question.
Okay.
Um, Threads or Twitter?
Twitter, but I only follow like I would say Twitter because there's so much more creators on Twitter, but also there'll be like
Oh,
sneaker
sneakers.
Twitter accounts I'll be following.
Yeah,
Today I'm like, oh nah, this is a good deal. Like, oh no, they got the link for this. So I'm still on that.
yeah. And I should have said Twitter, Threads, or Spill because I know Spill is also out there,
Yeah,
but I know like they're all Threads and Spill are both like figuring it out in my
they're figuring
opinion.
it out.
Yeah. TikTok or Vine?
TikTok.
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
What? Were you not a Vine child?
I would I was on Vine, but I wasn't like obsessed with Vine where people were. I was not.
Okay. Vine was comedy to me. I feel like
But
TikTok has this comedic moment, but I feel like TikTok can be like educational, comedic. It could be somewhere just like free your mind. So I get
I'm
it.
very boring where like my TikTok's very educational. My girlfriend,
Okay.
she's like, your feed's boring. I'm like, this is I get gym TikToks, I get financial TikToks, I get travel hack TikTok, I get this.
Okay.
It's all stuff that's just feeding my interests.
The funny thing is, at the start of our conversation, I was like, I feel like I can ask him this financial question and he would have the answer to it. I don't know why I was thinking that.
I love it.
But TikTok or Instagram?
I'm on Instagram more, but I do enjoy those TikTok. I'll say Instagram probably, but
Okay.
I do love TikTok.
Okay. If you can stay on one social media platform for the rest of your life, what would it be and why?
For the rest of my life. Oh, stay on. See, that's so weird because the one I consume is different than the one I use. I use YouTube constantly. There'll be times where I'm cleaning the
Wait,
house,
what do you mean by you use YouTube? Like you
like
watch
watch
it?
it, just like
Okay,
consume,
okay.
like, yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
like your former TV, I guess, in a sense.
a little bit. Like this job has a wellness stipend, and I just bought YouTube Premium so that I don't have to watch ads. Like that's how much I'm like, nah, I get so much value from YouTube. For me, it's worth the investment. But in terms of like for the rest of my life, what would I use? I probably use LinkedIn because it's giving me so much ROI. It's gonna provide me the lifestyle and life I want down the road. As I continue to build this community, it could be a newsletter, it could be an ebook, it could be a course series, it could be this, right? And like all those things create the life you want.
And I think to your point of like building a community, it can lead to like, let's say you do the ebook, your community right there will be the first one to buy it or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
Okay, so I know this is probably a lot different than a lot of the conversations you had before. It's like just more so of a storytelling format of like who you are as a person and how you balance your mental health. Is there any questions though that I didn't ask or anything that you want to say?
No, I mean, the only thing I'll leave people with is that, your career journey is your own.
Mhm.
Uh, this may be controversial for some. I don't believe in just taking any job. I've gone on job interviews and been like, not to say that. I want to get out this company real bad, but I'm not about to go here. Like I don't take the wrong job because you don't want to burn bridges and then leave that job in 2 months because this other job came up, and then you don't want to keep doing that. I also think from a recruitment standpoint, when people look at your resume, it's tougher to get jobs when it feels like you've just gone to any job. You want to be able to connect those dots and storytell like, no, I went from here for this reason, for this reason, and then start posting on LinkedIn. That's not said enough.
And what is your social handles for anyone that wants to connect with you?
Yep, I'm basically everywhere at Raised by Style. Like came up in fashion, so I just kept it. RAISEDBY Style. And then on LinkedIn, just my first and last name, Brandon Smithwrick.
Okay. Thank you so much, Brandon, for being on the podcast today.
No worries. Thank you so much, Rashif.
Can't wait until the next episode to get your cup filled. Follow us on our social media platforms at Pour Into My Cup on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Pinterest. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast to stay updated when new episodes are released. Leave a review and pour into someone else's cup by sharing the podcast. And I have to ask, is your cup half empty or half full? Peace, love, happiness. Rashiba, signing off.